Today's webinar is entitled Rising Above the Storms. Our presenter is Alphonsine Imaniraguha, network engineer with Cisco Systems and motivational speaker through her nonprofit, Rising Above the Storms. A 2008 alumna of RIT, Alphonsine was born in Rwanda, where she lived until moving to the U.S. in 2006 to pursue a master's degree. As a motivational speaker, Alphonsine has made it her mission to spread a message of hope, forgiveness, and love, and through education empowering youth at risk and while advocating for orphans worldwide. Welcome, Alphonsine. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Cindy, and thank you everyone for your time today. It's a real pleasure to be here speaking to you. My name is Alumna Alphonsine, and today I'm going to take you on a journey with a title called Rising Above the Storms, My Own Life Story. I hope that you have a lot of questions for me. So a little bit about me, a quick introduction about me. I was born and raised in Rwanda, that's in East Central Africa. I come from a very large family, 5 siblings, and the most loving parents anyone could ever wish for. Until the age of 13, my life was a paradise. Nothing could ever have prepared me for what was about to unfold before my eyes as a little girl. On the night of April 6, 1994, the plane carrying the president of Rwanda was shut down as it was landing at the airport in Rwanda. The worst atrocities of the 20th century followed immediately. So I put a picture of Rwanda because for many may know it's a very, very small country. It's about the size of Massachusetts or Vermont. So it's a very, very small in size. That's why I try to put an image there so that you can be able to know where it is in Africa. So a little bit about Rwandan history that would help you understand what I'm presenting today and a little bit about me. So Rwanda, human occupation in Rwanda is believed to have begun shortly after the last ice age. By the 16th century, the inhabitants have organized themselves into what they called small kingdoms in Rwanda. People were always divided into 3 different ethnic groups that I would explain briefly shortly. In 1994, fast forwarding later, there was a national census that showed that Rwanda, the population stood at 7 million in 1994. So it's a small country with a lot of high population. So those 3 ethnic groups, the Tutsi were 15% in 1994. So that's when the first census was conducted, but that's the numbers that we are given. Tutsi were 15% of the whole 7 million people. The Twa were a little bit less than 1%, and the Hutus, which were a majority, were always the 85%, so the majority of the population. By the 19th century, the monarchy was established and led by a king who was from the ethnic group called Tutsi, the minority of 15% of the population. The first colonial powers, who were Germans, arrived in Rwanda in 1885. They conquered Rwanda for about 30-some years, where they left after they were defeated in World War I. Immediately, the Belgian forces conquered the area and it became our second colonial power. Germany was in Rwanda from 1885 until 1919, when Belgium colonized Rwanda most of the rest of the time until the country gained independence. So Belgians, when they arrived in Rwanda, as I explained before, there were three ethnic groups. So these people never saw themselves different. And that's what I want you to take away. They lived in a harmony. They loved each other. They served each other. They intermarried between them. Although they were different by the physical standards that I may talk briefly about, they never saw them different. So Belgians, when they were colonizing people, they found it hard to have a power over those people because they just couldn't get through it to be able to take one side to be able to overcome the other one. So they came up with a plan. Believe it or not, Belgians brought researchers, scientists, to study the brain of people, of mostly Hutus and Tutsis. That's what I'm going to be talking about because those were majority. Twa were not even mentioned anywhere. It seems like they didn't matter. So Belgians studied brain of people. Their research showed that Tutsis, 15% of the population, were very smart, tall, skinny, and beautiful. Hutus, 85% of the population, were assumed to be shorter, bigger, not pretty, not very strong physically. So completely the opposite of Tutsi. And that was the studies by the Belgians. So as you can imagine, this immediately started tensions between Hutus and the Tutsis that were never there before. To make it even worse, Belgians issued what they called identity cards to further separate citizens. So what those identity cards, which I have seen with my eyes, they were about, they just simply showed you are Hutu, you are Tutsi. So when people never saw the difference among them, this time they did because they were called, oh, you're Hutu, oh, you're Tutsi, and they were different, I'm pretty, you are ugly looking, just by the standard of Belgians. So Hutus, who were the majority, started resenting Tutsis. And fasting forward in the so that happened, the identity cards happened in 1935. Fast forwarding in 1959, there was a revolution because the tensions grew and the Hutus just couldn't handle it because the Belgians sided Tutsis because they were, they were the monarchy, the king was a Tutsi, and the Belgians favored the Tutsis, so Hutus became concerned, and eventually they started a revolution that resulted in overthrowing the king and the monarchy and the Tutsis in 1959, where 200,000 Tutsis were killed immediately, and many left the country. Rwanda gained independence from Belgium in 1962. So continuing on a little bit about the Rwandan history to help you understand my story. In 1973, a Hutu who was, now we understand that Hutus are the majority and they took power, they seized the power. A Hutu who was a major general in the army in Rwanda did a coup and became the president in 1973. That started a very long journey for Tutsis because they were excluded from political powers, from any job. Many were imprisoned, others were killed, and many others left the country. So those Tutsi who exiled in neighboring countries of Rwanda, for Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, Burundi, the Congo, formed it was a military opposition because they just wanted to come back to Rwanda since they were not allowed, and those who were in Rwanda really had a hard time, and there was no peace or being included as a part of the country. So And where many people just say that the genocide was because of what was happening, as I can explaining to you, things started way before. So in early 90s, like 1992, there was a peace accord, that negotiations that began that included international community to be able to form negotiations between the Tutsi opposition and the Rwandan government to perhaps to look into organizing and making Rwandans come together and be part of the government, and Tutsis to be included into the country as well. So those peace accords negotiations were being conducted in Tanzania, which is in the east of Rwanda, and it was led by United States, France, and some African countries to just be able to bring peace again in Rwanda. On April 6, 1994, the president of Rwanda, the then president of Rwanda, was returning from Tanzania and from those talks. And when his plane was about to land in the airport, it was shut down. Now you have to remember, the president, because of the international community pressure and everything that was happening, he was forced to agree to including the Tutsi government, because otherwise he would lose aid, political reasons, as you can imagine. So he was going to go back and sign the peace accord. I think it was several weeks later. But his plane was shut down, and there was no survivor from this plane. The killings began immediately. So when I say this, I was there. I was 13 years old. My siblings were all younger. I had one older brother. So I saw everything. I heard the plane as it came down, because we lived like 30 minutes from the airport. That very same night, April 6th, it was a Wednesday, the media, which was monopolized by the government, started announcing the list of Tutsis to be killed and asked all Hutus to rise against everyone who's a Tutsi, neighbors, kids, young, old people. And just to be specific on this, all the tools that were used to kill Tutsis were purchased in advance, and the mass graves were dug beforehand. So this is something that you may hear different from other presentation, but I was there. I know that this was premeditated and planned, and perhaps the president, they knew that he was going to be killed. But I'm not going to go into details now, because this presentation is not about Rwanda. It's not about me, or it's not about the history of Rwanda. It's about my story and what I want to communicate to you. The genocide lasted for 3 long months, from April to July, and it was only stopped by the Tutsis, those that I mentioned, who formed the opposition, the military opposition. They fought on foot without any help from the international community that gave up. Everyone say that, including United States and the United Nations, that it was brothers killing each other, that they shouldn't intervene. So these Tutsi oppositions and their supporters, they fought on foot until they conquered the whole country and they stopped the genocide. Statistics estimate that about 1 million Tutsi were killed, and some people, that number also have a small number of Hutus who opposed the killings and the agenda that the government had. This staggering number, unfortunately, includes my parents and 2 of my siblings who were also killed because of what they didn't even ask when they were born. They didn't ask to be born that way. But that's just the way it is. By the grace of God, I'm so thankful I survived, and my 3 younger siblings also survived. They were then 8, 6 and 3 years old, and I was 13. So this, I chose to put pictures that are very, very close to my heart. This is my mom. She was 40 years old when she was killed. She was killed 17 days after the genocide began. My dad was killed 10 days after the genocide began. He was 43, so they were still young. Also, my sister, who was right after me, she was 11 years old. She was killed as well. And my brother, who was 15, he was my older brother. He was also killed. I just want to mention that I'm not going to go into details about that, but I was with them when they were killed, so I pretty much know what happened to them, sadly. And my world changed or turned around when I learned, because I was not with them, that 3 of my younger siblings survived. Those that I mentioned who were 8, 6, and 3, they survived. I have to say that everything turned around, because when I thought that I survived alone and I was hopeless and I didn't see any meaning of life, having this 3 was the best gift that I could ever ask in this life, because it made me look at life differently, knowing that at least they have a connection to the lost past that I couldn't bring back. So without a chance to be a child, without a chance to be told that I'm loved, without a chance to be, for someone to say, oh, I'm there for you, or I'm so sorry, you are young, you're 13, I can do everything for you, don't have to worry about it. There was nothing like that. I immediately assumed the role of a mother to my 3 siblings. Life was very, very hard, and I will never find the words in this life that I can be able to put it, to explain or to portray how I felt overwhelmed, but with nobody to talk to. I get asked by so many people that, did you talk to a therapist? So therapist, that's a Western term. We don't even have a Kinyarwanda for that, because there's no such thing as a therapist, and everyone was heartbroken. There was no time to to even just have someone to talk to, leave alone if you could even find a place to stay. Despite all that, we eventually started life again after the genocide stopped, and we went back to school, knowing personally that I didn't have any other option in life. Life ended at that time to me, and love went with my parents. I worked so hard in school to be able to perhaps change the future or be somebody, because now when I relied with my parents who did everything for me, who loved me so unconditionally, and they are everything that I could ever imagine, they were gone. So now I knew that I had to do everything by myself. So I went back to school. When the genocide happened, I was in middle school. So I went back to school and the high school. With the challenge and so many things that I went through, I was able to graduate from high school top of my class. Immediately, I received, when I graduated from high school, which we have majors in high school. My major was math and physics, which I was really good at and I enjoyed. I received a full scholarship to go to college in Rwanda, where I graduated in 2005 from Kigali Institute of Science and Technology, and I had a bachelor's degree in electronics engineering. It was a hard 4 years, but just every day knowing that I'm the only hope to myself, because in Rwanda, normally when you have parents, they would do everything for you, but not in this case. I was all alone, and I had to work double for myself and for my 3 younger siblings that I became a mother for. I graduated from KIST, that's the Kigali Institute of Science and Technology, with a top of my class. as well, despite struggling in the aftermath PSTD that I struggled with because I had a bad, terrible ulcer, like pain in my stomach that lasted pretty much the 3 years of college, where nobody had a hope that I would ever graduate or I would ever even finish school. But every time that I had a break from pain and I would study for my exams, I would do well in my classes, and everyone was so sure that I was cheating because I didn't attend the classes and I would come to just take an exam. Nobody believed it, but I worked so hard, and I was so thankful that in 2005 when I graduated, I was the top of my class, which most of the time when it happens, you get offered the job. So the job, the prestigious job that you get offered is being taken by the school that you just graduated from and become a teaching assistant, which was a full-time job. So I was offered a full-time job before my graduation, like a week before my graduation, which was probably the first breaking point because that was the very first time in my life that I was able to get money, a salary where I can be able to really buy something nice for my siblings and for myself. I've never bought nice clothes throughout college because I just didn't have money, and any money that I could get from the stipend because I had a scholarship, it was every time to help my siblings and to take care of things, needs that they have. They were in school, elementary school and some in high school. So it was the first time I remember I took them for shopping, and it was the first time in let's say maybe 10 years, 15 years that they wore the first new clothes, and it was probably one of the best days of my life to just see smiles and the happiness and my siblings looking good in the new clothes. So it's 3 months into the job as a teaching assistant here at KISS, the Rutgers Institute of Technology, you all know about RIT, it offered 2 scholarships to Rwanda as a country, and they were to choose 2 students to come to RIT. And I'm just so humbled all the time that I was lucky to be chosen as one of the 2 candidates to be receiving a full scholarship from RIT. So I joined the RIT in the College of Applied Science and Technology in 2006, where I did my master's in telecommunications engineering. It was a very good, rewarding experience, and I just loved every minute of it. I loved the people at RIT. My classmates, my professors were wonderful, seriously. It was my first time actually for, professors, because in my culture, people don't really show emotion, and they will never tell you, oh, we are so sorry about what happened to you. We care. Let us know if you need anything. So I've never been told something like that, but seeing my professors in a graduate school being able to, just try to relate to what happened to me and just being able to care. I loved all my professors in CAS, and I'm still in touch with most of them. So it was a really great experience. So while I was at RIT, we were exposed to the Cisco labs where we did some networking sessions and took classes and the trainings, which really brought a dream to be able to one day work for Cisco. I really it became my dream. I was so sure that I would eventually join Cisco, which it was very hard for so many reasons. So now there's so many people that may never understand this, but when you're from another country, you don't have experience in the American culture. English is not your first language, as you all can tell. You have an accent. It counts against you for those who don't know it. But I was determined that whatever it takes, I will one day apply and get accepted at Cisco as their employees. So that dream became a reality in 2010 when I was offered a full-time job as a network consulting engineer. And it was my dream, and it became true. That's why I believe that in your life, anything that you want to get to, as long as you work hard and you don't give up, it's just eventually is going to happen. So I started at Cisco, and along all this time, so I've been talking about myself. Along this time, my 3 siblings obviously were always my responsibilities to this day, but I'm so grateful to share that in 2014, my brother that you saw in the picture graduated with a master's in computer science. My sister Alice graduated with a DO degree in Master of Social Work and Master's in International Relations. And my youngest sister, Noella, she graduated with a Bachelor's in Accounting. All this, I really don't want anyone on this webinar to feel like I'm boasting. I'm extremely humbled by this and grateful that I have been able to provide for my siblings and be able to be able to pay for their education and to support them 100%. So when I say that I supported them, it's not, sending a few things or here and there, but every stipend that I had at RIT for the full scholarship that I had, every money that I had, I would just pay for my room and the food and a few things I needed, and from the job that I was working on campus in the study abroad and in the honors office. So that's why I worked most of my time there. Every little bit of money that I made, it would go towards my siblings, the food and their tuition and everything. So to just see them graduating today, and it makes me proud. I will never, ever be able to put it in words. The way I'm just so grateful that they turn out to be great people, and so with accomplished and with the degrees and education that they will need in their future. And my brother Eric got married last year, and he has a very cute boy who is now almost 4 months old. So we are very thrilled, and I'm very, very grateful, and I feel like this baby is a grandmother because my siblings are really my kids. So I'm very, very thankful. So I know that I dumped so much information from this, and it's a lot that I shared, but with all this experience, with everything that I have shared, with my whole life, I call myself that I will have been able to rise above all these challenges that I mentioned, and so many, many, many more that I didn't even mention. So that's why I call my life Rising Above the Storms, and that's why I started a nonprofit called Rising Above the Storms. So the nonprofit mission and vision, it's all around my life story. So first of all, the vision is you will see forgiveness, love, and hope. I call that a vision because that's what I'm hoping to share, and that's what I have been sharing with different groups of people, schools, campuses, churches, independent groups, and just sharing about them, what has happened to me, how I have been able to forgive people who killed my family for no reason, and that there will never be a reason in this life. And the reason why I did it, I know that I get asked a lot of questions, why did you forgive them? So, I think that when you don't forgive someone, that's just me again, forgive me for saying this, but when I don't forgive someone, I'm the one who spends all nights and not thinking about it, being bothered by it, being sick and hating and all that. So I realized that forgiving them, I free my heart, I sleep well at night, and it makes me happy and better, and I can move on with my life like I've been doing. So that's why I choose to forgive, and that's what I share about my life, to teach forgiveness and what it has done to me and how it has helped me move on with my life and to be able to become who I am today. I want to teach about love because, I have been able, despite being robbed of my youth and my parents at a very young age, I have been able to love my siblings. When I say this, I love these three siblings and now a younger baby for my brother's son more than I will ever be able to put in words. I love them as my own kids, and there's nothing in this life I cannot do for them. There's just nothing. If the whole planet was mine, I would give it to them without even thinking, anything. So I want to be able to share that love that I have been bestowed upon me, that I have been able to love my siblings unconditionally, and perhaps extend it to so many other children in the youth out there who have never been told that they're loved. This is something that I probably gonna talk about hope as well, because I have been given a hope to be able to live for. I have been able to move on and be able to do the job I love. And I love the United States and being here. It gives me opportunities that I possibly cannot get anywhere else. I have learned that, just because I'm different, I talk differently, or I come from a different place, it doesn't mean that I cannot get to my dream. I've been able to get this wonderful job that I do because of all the, working hard and the hope, and it was possible. I was not considered that, I'm a nobody and I wouldn't be anybody. So I have a hope, and that's why I want to share that hope with everybody that I talk to, that despite the tragic stories or anything that defines your life, or anything that may have happened to you, it's possible to be able to have a hope and rise above that and be able to move on and be what you want it to be. The worst thing that you can do to your, I call it maybe someone who hurt you or your enemy, to forgive them and move on and be a better person. Nothing bothers them more than that. So our mission at RAS is to bring hope to the hopeless. So because of that, I hope to touch so many people and share my life story, my sensitive life story, hoping that it would encourage many people and that they will be able to perhaps learn from my tragic story and they have a hope. So that's my mission, and also empower through education. This is very important to me because education is what I always tell people, that I think God used education to get me where I was not the most smart person in the country. Yet I was chosen as one of the two to get a full scholarship to a very prestigious school like RIT that, I wouldn't ever have even thought about it. But the scholarship presented it to me, itself to me, because I was top of my class and had good grades, but anyone else can do that. But I got so lucky. So I want to be able to use who I am to be able to change so many lives using education. I'm who I am today. I do the job that I love. I live here in the U.S. I am so grateful to be who I am because for those who don't know, when I was hired at Cisco from RIT, actually I went to the RIT career fair. That's where I got this job that I have today. So I think the criteria that they were looking at to hire me, it was not experience, because guess what? I had zero, none. I had no experience. I had no hope to even be able to break into Cisco. So they looked at my grades, which trust me, I worked so hard, and I had I had just want to be class, I want to be in my entire grad school. Not to brag about it, but just, I'm just showing you that when you work hard, it will pay off. So they looked at my grade. They had no question about it. They looked at my master's degree. There was no question about it. And other criteria, everything I made it because I just had what takes to be hired by Cisco, and that's how I got a job. So education. So if you look all the way back to the story that I shared, education from all the way to high school and college and grad school, that's what get me to Cisco. I'm hoping that giving a chance to education, those who would never have ever had this chance. Yeah, look at my siblings. They are very accomplished because of, the fact that I have been able to put them through school, not just a high school, but a college, and two of them grad school. So I'm just so grateful for who they turned out to be. And I also have two other boys that miraculously I have been financially supporting, who one of them has graduated from college last year, 2014, and the second is a junior in college today. They all, my three siblings and those two boys, they make me proud. I'm not married yet, but I feel like I'm an accomplished mother because of 5 of them. I also hope to advocate for orphans. Again, I'm an orphan, and I'm here because of education. So that's what ties around our mission. I wanted to be able to speak for orphans, all those who don't have a voice, because I was able to get to a place where I can speak for them. I'm hoping to advocate for orphans, not just in Rwanda, but worldwide. We all would use someone who can tell us everything is going to be okay. I'm very proud of you. You'll be amazing, which is something I've never been told until I came to the U.S., where wonderful people and friends and people who just didn't even know me much, they came to me and they say, you do amazing. We are very, very proud of you. They didn't even know me much, but just those words of hope can go a long way, and they can change someone's life. So don't forget to tell someone that you're proud of them and that their future is brighter, because they may need that to boost their hope and confidence. So this is our first Treasured Learning Center. It's our first project. So the first project for Rising Above the Storms, we wanted to launch learning centers worldwide for education. It's like education centers. So our first project is going to be in Rwanda. It's not, it's not Rwanda only, but I'm hoping that if this method is successful in Rwanda, we are going to replicate it everywhere, because to me, I was born in Rwanda, and the Rwandans are the one who killed my family. And when I came to the U.S., people that I don't even look like have been a blessing to me, and they loved me unconditionally. One of them is actually a family that's in Rochester, New York, that calls me their own. I call them dad and mom. They treat me like one of their own, and we have nothing else in common besides the love that they love me. So just seeing that, it broadened my horizon, thinking that I don't care who you are or who you look like or where you are from. You are a human being, and I can be a blessing to you, or you can be a blessing to me. So that's why my goal is not just in Rwanda, but globally, because I am not going to change the whole world, but I want to change one life at a time, just like I have seen my siblings change and be who they are today because of just a small dose of love and also financial support. So Rwanda, why would we start with them? First of all, I'm from there, so I know people better than anybody. I know how to work with them. Second, orphans are illegal in Rwanda, so all the orphans are closed. Orphanages are closed, and you cannot start an orphanage. Also, Rwanda is close to international adoption. That's, don't ask me why, but there are some countries that are close international adoption. So because of those reasons, there's so many street kids. So there are so many, because of that and other reasons, like, people who are extremely poor and they cannot afford the school. And also, just so many other reasons, like parents who are abusive, or, which is not a huge case, but mostly step parents and the parents who were forced to adopt those kids that were from orphanages that were closed down. So this learning center is going to be focusing on for kids 3 to 18 years old in different groups that I'm not going to go into details, but I will put out the website that you can check out and be able to, ask me questions or email me or anything. So different groups, we wanted to give these kids hope. We wanted to be there for them. We want to listen to them and talk to them and do different things that can be able to boost their confidence and make them feel wanted. And, because personally when I look back, I just wish that, someone will have to come to me and say, oh, you're smart. You could do much more. Oh, I'm very proud of you. Not just telling you what you don't know, but just giving you hope, because when you hear it from somebody else, trust me, at this age, I still know that it makes a lot of difference. So we want to be able to be a center for education in different forms, be able to do sports and music instruments and counseling sessions, and be able to just be a hub for those kids who are homeless and street kids, be able to come and be rejuvenated and be able to have hope and be able to be told that they can do better in the future. So that's a brief summary of our first project that we are hoping to launch in January 2017, so next year. I know I shared so much, and I'm hoping that it was very helpful. This on the screen is our information, so email. You can email me and ask me any questions you want, personal or anything else. And this is our website, risingabovethestorms.org, and we have social media information as well. So I would love for you to ask your questions, as many as you want, personal or general. I will be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Alphonsine. We do have a few questions. One question, in Rwanda, after your family, some of your family was killed, you know how there's a saying that it takes a village to raise a child. So were you able and fortunate enough to have extended family or other friends that were accessible and able to help, or were you truly alone with 3 small children?
So that's a good question. I had just 1 or 2 extended relatives who first I had to be separated from my siblings because I was 13. We didn't have any place to live, and we just simply couldn't be on our own. So so there was an aunt, my mom's sister, who took my 3 younger siblings, and I was taken to my other aunt on my dad's side through school until a few years later when we could move in together and be on our own. So yes, I had 2 people who were able to help at the beginning.
Okay, thank you. Are there many Rwandan refugees in the U.S. after 1994, and where would the majority of them have come in the United States if they came here, at all?
That's a good question. I don't have any idea, but so I'm pretty sure there are, because I do read information in the books, but I don't know exactly where where there are Rwandan refugees, because those refugees probably came between 1994 and 1995, or perhaps 1996. After that, it would have been Rwandans who left the country in 1994 maybe became refugees later from other countries. So I know just a few people from different areas of the country, but not a specific location where I can say that they're concentrated here.
Okay, thank you for that answer. I had a question, and now it's escaping me. You talked briefly about adoption being closed. I am actually an adoptive parent, so I'm curious as to why that particular mindset. Who's closed international adoption and why? Do you have any insights into that?
That is a very good question. I don't know the reason, but I know that, this is just something about developing countries. I believe it's because we just think that if we came to United States and say, hey, by the way, we don't have any orphan, but you can help us build the schools for kids. Oh, yeah, countries like Western countries would jump into that quick. So that's my guess. We're never given explanations in our countries, not just Rwanda, but the rest of the developing countries. So things are done and no questions asked, but I know that all the orphanages were closed and the parents were forced to adopt those kids, and some of them became eventually they abused them because they are helpers around the house, and those kids were forced into streets because of that. So I do not have a political explanation to why that happened.
Okay, thank you. Today in Rwanda, what's the political landscape look like, if you know, and is it far more stable than it was those many years ago?
Absolutely. It's a way, oh goodness, it's really just like a completely different. I was there in like maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's a completely different. Rwanda is probably the fastest growing a country in terms of technology, in terms of education and development and everything. So things are different and better and safe. Rwanda is one of the safest African countries. It's one of the safest in Africa. And you can trust that you go there and be okay. And as a tourist or anything else that you'll be doing there. So things are different. It's just that in Africa politically, things can change anytime and you never know where they just came from. You can see it coming like we did before the genocide, or it can just come out of nowhere. But today, things are okay. From what we can see politically, there is always something, but everything looks good today.
Following that significant loss of life back in the early 90s, does the country hold annual events to commemorate the loss of so many people?
Absolutely. That's probably one of my favorite time of the year, to be honest with you. I know that Christmas is a big deal to many people, but for me, April, it's very close to my heart. So from April 7th to April, for the whole week, it's a mourning time in Rwanda every year around, and many people travel to Rwanda to commemorate that. And there are different events around the world where Rwandans are. Even every year we have it mostly in Washington, D.C., so maybe that can say that many Rwandans live there. So we do have those events, and it's one of my favorite time because not that that's when I remember about the loved one that I lost, but because exactly that's when I lost them in April, and I just get to celebrate them, not just at that time, but always.
Thank you for that. Last chance to send in questions, because as of right now, we've answered all of them. And if there are no other questions, then we were going to wrap a little early. Is one coming in? Nope. Okay. Well, Alphonsine, thank you for that incredibly powerful story. We do appreciate it. If you have additional questions, you can email them to ritalum@rit.edu or tweet to @RIT_alumni with the hashtag #MeRITWebinars. And we will direct your questions directly to Alphonsine, and she will get us and get you some answers. As a reminder, you will all receive an email from us in the next few days with a link to today's recording. And many, many thanks to Alphonsine for being our presenter today. And thanks to all of you listeners out there for joining us. Our next webinar is scheduled for February 18th, where we will present Sustainable Home Remodeling with Mary Golden, Assistant Professor and Program Chair for Interior Design here at RIT. In this webinar, you will learn how to achieve a beautiful, healthy design that meets your budget. Look for an email with all the additional details. Again, thank you for joining.